No CP, Liaozhai style, cute pet, easy, female strong upgrade flow, infrastructure. Song Yushan, born with jade in his mouth, was a wise person who embarked on a path of cultivation. From then on, both the ghost path and the demon tribe have had her legend. Ghost. Shopkeeper Song is the source of happiness for us ghosts. We have paid a lot for the construction of the ghost road, without expecting anything in return. We are grateful. Demon. Master Song is of great virtue, willing to sacrifice oneself for others, receiving guidance, and forever remembering. Song Yushan said, "You think I'm losing, but in reality, I'm making a lot of money." Big White Goose. Gaga jade, keywords of the novel. I am practicing merit in Liaozhai without a pop-up window. I am downloading the complete collection of merit in Liaozhai. I am reading the latest chapter on merit in Liaozhai. Chapter 1. GG. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. GG. A young girl from a small family, aged 15. Choose an auspicious day, invite guests, play the qin and sing the zither, and complete her hairpin ceremony. Song Tao, dressed in a Confucian robe, said to the guests who were observing the ceremony in the hall. After speaking, he looked out of the hall and said, "Yushan, come in and salute everyone." As soon as Song Yushan was about to enter, he saw a big white goose, who was supposed to be locked up in the backyard in Japan today, getting a piece of red cloth from somewhere and pressing it against its head. It stumbled out and ran in front of her in the blink of an eye, almost reaching the corridor. Speaking late, it was fast. She grabbed the neck of the big white goose with one hand and the red cloth with the other, and quickly tied a knot on its mouth. "Big White, if you call again today, I will send you to Fumanzai tonight and have someone stew and eat for me." The Baimu was frightened and locked his small wings, afraid to move, fearing that he would be sent to the terrifying Fuman studio the next moment. It was a place where any poultry could only be placed in a tray. Song Yushan saw that it was honest, so he put it down and said, "Go back to the backyard. The guests can only come out after they leave." The big white goose tied a red cloth around its mouth and ran away as if fleeing. "Yushan!" Song Tao shouted again when he saw that his daughter had not come in yet. Song Yushan quickly straightened his demeanor and entered the main hall. The guests were somewhat surprised to see her dressed in red. "It's just normal, why do women from the boudoir dress up like warriors and knights in the hairpin ceremony? Song Xiuzai only has this one daughter, she's too spoiled. I originally wanted Song Xiuzai to be benevolent and kind, and wanted to marry this daughter for the children in the family. But now it seems that it's okay." Next, the formal guests will enter. A lame one-eyed old lady in a black robe, leaning on a cane, walked slowly in. "How is she?" Someone couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, and quickly covered their mouth against the indifferent gaze that the old lady looked at in the voice. The dangerous and eerie old lady makes people dare not speak recklessly, but she cannot stop people's thoughts and is very puzzled. A normal family, who loves their daughters, wouldn't hire an old lady who deals with dead people even if they didn't invite someone who is completely happy. Although this flower mother-in-law has some mysterious abilities and is somewhat mysterious, her husband and son have died, her eyes are blind and her feet are limping, and her business is not very auspicious. How dissatisfied is it with her daughter that she invited such a guest of honor? It seems that the rumors of Song Xiuzai's love for his daughter are not entirely true. However surprised, no one dared to say anything to Grandma Hua. Those who had disrespected her before have all learned a lesson, and no one knows when they will demand it from her. Grandma Hua is an extremely special presence in Fushui County. She is alone, without any relatives or connections, and no one dares to get close to or provoke her. She is not only considered unlucky in everyone's hearts, but also inseparable from her. "Master." Song Yushan smiled and greeted Grandma Hua. "Master." The guests were startled. Song Tao promptly announced, "Yesterday, the little girl was already worshipped by her mother-in-law, and on the same day, she also established a female household. I hope everyone will take care of her in the future. Song thanks everyone here. The guests had not yet regained their senses from the news that the Song family's daughter was planning to establish a female household, when the Song family's jade ceremony and hairpin ceremony came to an end. On that day, news spread throughout Fushui County that Song Jiayu had become a disciple of his grandmother at the West Shotsai shop and had to appoint a female household head. From then on, most of the families waiting for the Song family's daughters and their heirs to come and propose marriage have calmed down. The Song family was a wealthy family in the county, with a workshop and a bookstore, almost monopolizing the paper and book business in the county. The Song family only has one daughter, and whoever marries her is the one in charge of these things. Not to mention those who want to marry the Song family, there are many people who even want to marry. But it's different when a woman from the Song family establishes a female household. Even if she marries her, these things will still be under her name in the future. Having established a female household and worshipped the feared flower granny as her teacher, the Song family's Yushan suddenly went from being the top bride among unmarried women in Fushui County to becoming an unavoidable presence. Alas, the Song family's Yushan probably won't be able to get married anymore. Song Shotsai is confused, isn't this cutting off the good fortune? Song Yushan's mother-in-law sent flowers back to the Shotsai shop. On the way back, there were always people who shook their heads in regret when they saw her. Many people were already too enthusiastic when they saw her, greeting her and seeing her off, but they also avoided her gaze as she looked over. If Song Yushan were really a young girl who had just reached her hair's length and was not familiar with worldly affairs, she might feel disappointed, but she was born with Su Hui. Now that she is in such a state, it makes her happy to show her little tiger teeth. Song Yushan strode through his own bookstore and entered the courtyard through a small door in the backyard. He saw his father sitting in the hall and said, "Father. The girl is back, why are you laughing so happily?" Song Tao waved and asked his daughter to sit down next to him. Song Yushan counted carefully and said, "Mrs. Wang from the street steamed bun shop didn't say she wanted to give me steamed buns today, or did she meet Mr. Su from Yushu village? The flower seller, Miss Luo, didn't praise me for her beauty, instead she sent flowers to me on behalf of her brother. Others' liking and enthusiasm for you suddenly dissipated, don't you feel lost in being treated coldly?" Song Tao asked. "I don't have time to be happy. They don't really like me. They clearly like our bookstore and workshop. If they don't really like me, then there's nothing to cherish." "That's just right," said Song Yushan. Song Tao nodded and asked, "The people who used to express their intention to get married to me have lost their trust, and the girl is not worried either." "Father, now all I want to do is practice martial arts with Grandma Hua and become someone like her who has the ability to protect herself. When the time comes, I can go all over the world, and it's not much more interesting than having a boudoir." From what she has seen and heard since childhood, most of what women seek is to have a lover, a harmonious family, and a family full of children and grandchildren. If she had not been born with Su Hui, perhaps she would have gradually become such a person, but she is not. She speaks lightly and cannot cure other people's chronic illnesses, but she can work hard to protect herself. It was precisely because she was eager to find ways to protect herself that she noticed Grandma Hua. The elderly person lives in the market, but feels isolated, and no one, regardless of gender or age, dares to provoke her. Song Yushan observed for a long time and found that Grandma Hua looked disabled, but she was agile and had exceptional strength and speed, surpassing that of a middle-aged man. That's why she wanted to apprentice and practice martial arts. She begged the elderly for several years, only to relax this year, and only succeeded in apprenticeship yesterday. Good, good, good. The man is ambitious, and we girls are not inferior to the man. Song Tao was very pleased. You should learn from Grandma Hua well. Although she looks gloomy and dangerous, she has never hurt anyone since I knew her. When someone who doesn't handle her comes to her door, she will still help. People just transfer their fear of death to her. My daughter knows that my mother-in-law has a tough mouth and a soft heart, and she is particularly protective of her short stature. Song Yushan would smile at the thought of Hua's mother-in-law. At the beginning, she shamelessly went to learn from the teacher. Her mother-in-law was very cold and refused without hesitation. Her mother-in-law responded to any good intentions. But one evening, a rainstorm suddenly came, and it was dark earlier than usual. Her mother-in-law sent her back to Hohot Lane and asked her to go there only at noon. She was not worried that she was a teenager. What was the danger of going back in the rain? Since then, she has not been afraid of Grandma Hua at all. As a father, I can rest assured. With Grandma Hua around, the girl won't be bullied, said Song Tao. Song Yushan always felt that his father's words were strange. With you here, others would not bully me even if they saw your face. Song Tao shook his head and said, parents can't always accompany their children for a lifetime. Do you still remember the story of taking the city god exam that your father told you when you were a child? Song Yushan didn't know why his father suddenly mentioned this, but he nodded and said, I remember, there was a scholar who fell asleep during his illness and went to take an exam. He wrote an official document saying, if you have a heart, do good but not reward, if you don't have a heart, do evil but not punish. The gods praised him and he was awarded the title of city god. A girl should remember this sentence. If you have a heart, do good but not reward, if you have no heart, do evil but not punish. Song Tao said earnestly, you have been intelligent since childhood, and have had a vision. You were born with a jade, and you are truly extraordinary. As a father, I believe you can achieve something, but good will be rewarded. No matter when, where, or what status you have, do not follow your will. Remember to do more in gong, accumulate more merits, and only then can you receive profound blessings. That's why I named you Yushan. My daughter knows, Song Yushan lowered his head. Unfortunately, I don't know where that little jade seal went. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Joy and Funeral. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Joy and Funeral. She was born with Su Hui, so she was deeply impressed by the small jade seal that was born with it in her mouth, thinking it was her own chance. At the beginning, Yuyin did not show any peculiarities. After Song Yushan grew small teeth, the first thing he did was bite his finger to see if he could drip blood to identify his master. However, since then, Xiao Yuyin has disappeared. She was born with a jade, and no one else knew about it except her father and her, as well as her late mother and grandmother. If it's yours, I'll definitely come back to you. Don't worry too much, girl, Song Tao comforted. Perhaps it was because she was pregnant today that her father was particularly moved and showed great interest in teaching her many life lessons. Song Yushan listened attentively to them. The conversation only came to an end when it was dark and the evening meal delivered by Fuman Zhai arrived. Girl, remember what my father said to you today. I hope you can fulfill your wishes and live your life well in the future. Song Tao looked out the window. Alright, it's getting late, let's have dinner. Song Yushan smiled at his father with admiration and went to set up the meal. The father and daughter had dinner together. After dinner, Song Yushan returned to his own room, washed himself up, and went to bed to rest, touching the pillow and falling asleep. I don't know how long it was, but in a moment of half dreaming and half awakening, she suddenly heard the sound of gongs and drums. She came out in a daze, only to see many solemn-looking officials in the courtyard, and there were also many tall carriages and horses outside the courtyard, even more luxurious than those of the Fushui county government. Song Yushan wanted to ask the official next to him, which adult's car was driving and why he came to her Song mansion, but found that he couldn't speak up for no reason. Girl. She followed the sound and saw in the hall that her father was wearing a brand new official uniform, with extraordinary authority. In an instant, her father came to her side. Nan Nan, as my father's birthday has come to an end, I will be going to Kyushu to serve as the city god. Don't be sad, Nan Nan. I should have gone 15 years ago and fought for these days. It is fortunate to be able to protect my child's growth. This is a happy event. My father, just like when he told her the story of the city god exam when he was a child, patted her head lightly and said, "Learn from Grandma Hua well, protect yourself and remember that good will be rewarded with good and evil will be rewarded with evil. Perhaps we will meet again in the future." Song Yushan watched as his father, dressed in official attire, climbed onto the carriage, followed by many carriages and horses. Amidst the sound of drums and gongs, he gradually disappeared into the darkness. In the backyard garden, the big white goose with its mouth tied up and not eating for a day is trembling, and this family can't stay anymore. Another day, it must run away from home. Asterisk in the bedroom, Song Yushan suddenly woke up with a wet face. She looked at the light leak outside the bed, it was already past midnight. Is it originally a dream? She listened attentively to the commotion outside the window. Their family is very thin, although they are wealthy in the county, since their grandmother passed away, they no longer have servants, and everything is handled by their father and her personally. Fortunately, the Song mansion is small and exquisite, and the father and daughter can still be busy. At this time in the past, my father had already gotten up to clean the yard. She lives in the west wing room. In the past, she could hear her father cleaning the yard, but today there is silence outside. Song Yushan got out of bed, put on his outer robe, and ran out. There was indeed no one in the courtyard, and she looked at her father's bedroom in the main room, with the door tightly closed. Father. The door was not locked, and as soon as she knocked, it opened. However, indoors, the figure lying peacefully in the bed curtain made her forget to breathe. She cautiously raised her volume and shouted again, "Father." There is still no response. She didn't know how she walked to the bedside, met her father's pale face, and how she finished sniffing. Dong dong. The knocking on the door sounded, and she walked like a walking corpse to open it. At the moment she saw Grandma Hua, she couldn't help but say, "Master, my father." Grandma Hua hugged her and patted her back, saying, "Good child, I already know. This is also a good thing for your father. He will become the Een god in the future. If your cultivation is successful, perhaps you may have another day to see each other." Song Yushan didn't understand, Een god. Practicing. Well, your roots are stronger than your mother.in.laws, and you can definitely go further than her. Although your mother.in.law has never heard of Chu Xia, she knows that after completing her cultivation, the boundary between life and death is not so clear. For example, if you learn the heavenly eye technique, you can see ghosts in the world. The Een god is a legendary ghost god that must be created by great beings. It is rare in the world, and even if he is not by your side, he will still protect you. The amount of information was too large, and Song Yushan was stunned. She always thought that Grandma Hua's martial arts skills were amazing, and she always aimed to practice martial arts to protect herself, never thinking about anything else. However, this news is too surprising for her at this moment. "So I didn't have a dream last night." Song Yushan talked about that dream last night. Grandma Hua nodded and said, "I think so. Last night, Lord City God also came to see me before he took office. It was only then that I came so timely." "What explanation does father leave behind?" Song Yushan asked. "Lord Chenghuang wants to have a happy funeral and be buried with his wife." "The funeral ceremony is also ready," said Grandma Hua. "Don't worry, there's Grandma here. Grandma will teach you." Song Yushan nodded heavily. With hope, Song Yushan quickly regained his composure and, with the help of Grandma Hua, prepared his father's funeral in an orderly manner. After getting busy, he had no time to think about anything. It wasn't until 3 days later, when her father was buried in the earth and the house suddenly quieted down, that she had leisure to reminisce. I didn't think so before, but looking back now, there are clues everywhere. The story of taking the city god exam that my father told her since childhood is probably not a true story. The protagonist in the story, after being admitted to the city god exam, pleads with the examiner to let him go back to take care of his wife and mother who are pregnant, but finds out that he only has 3 days left in his life. If you want to go back, you must use your future salary to repay it. 1 year of yang shou is equivalent to 300 years of salary, and you can borrow up to 15 years of yang shou. The protagonist agreed without hesitation. 3 days after waking up, his wife gave birth to a lovely daughter on the night. From her birth to her father's death, it happened to be 15 years. Moreover, although her father has always been in love with her, he does not cultivate her in the direction of a wealthy lady like other families raising their daughters. Instead, he often lets her walk around and teaches her to read and manage the family's industries rationally. He never restricts her, and she lives more like a common woman or man. And the teachings of Ji's father on that day now seem more like a nagging admonition. Starting tomorrow, she will officially practice martial arts with Grandma Hua. No, she will be practicing. This world is not an ordinary ancient world, it is even more dangerous than she imagined. But when she becomes successful in her cultivation, she must go to Chu Xia and tell her father that she did not disappoint his expectations and lived a good life. She finished eating the pancakes she had bought from the street market when she was about to go wash up when she heard the courtyard door being knocked on. She stood up and pushed open a crack in the window by the door, quietly looking over. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Sha Xing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Sha Xing. I saw a big gray goose with a red cloth tied to its mouth lying weakly in the corridor, banging its head against her room door. It's broken. There have been so many things happening these past few days that she has forgotten about having a big white goose at home. Although this was not the first time she had forgotten about it, it used to be her father who was responsible for feeding it. Ever since she discovered that this goose was a female with no eggs laid except for a quack, she had completely lost interest in it. The only fate with it is to threaten it to be sent to Fumanzai when it chatters incessantly. As soon as Song Yushan thought that this was a goose raised by her father, she had been starving for 3 days and had not seen it come out of the backyard, she couldn't help feeling guilty. You can tell from its dusty appearance how much effort it has put into removing the red cloth from its mouth. Father is gone, his goose cannot be raised to death by her. Song Yushan quickly opened the door and went out, loosening the big goose's mouth, and then threw the evil red cloth ball into the kitchen, even turning off the fire and boiling water in the stove to destroy the remains. The big white goose carried its weak body and dragged a feeding bowl, saying, "Ga. Oh, eat." Fortunately, she remembered what the geese were eating. Song Yushan quickly went to the warehouse and dug out half a bag of wheat bran, scooped up a few spoonfuls, and piled up the big goose's food bowl to the brim, revealing its pointed tip to show her apology. Big white goose. Alright, take your time eating. I'll go take a shower. I'll leave this wheat bran next to your nest, so I won't tie it up. If you're hungry in the future, you can open it yourself and eat it. If it's gone, bite into the bag and come to me. I'll exchange it for you. Song Yushan feels like he is the most open-minded master. The big white goose watched helplessly as she entered the house, without any intention of adding a sip of water to its food bowl. This house can't stay any longer. When she finishes eating this pot of waterless wheat bran and recovers her strength, she will run away from home. Song Yushan slept until early morning the next day before waking up. When he woke up, he felt full of energy and wished he could immediately go find Grandma Hua to start practicing. However, yesterday, her mother-in-law instructed her to finish her lunch, take a short rest, and then go back later. Although Song Yushan didn't know the reason, he still decided to comply. The bookstore at home hasn't opened for several days. I have time in the morning, so I'll just go and take a look later. When she opened the door and went out to boil water to wash up, her big gray goose was leaning towards the well, its head sticking out, not knowing what it was doing. "Goodbye. Be careful if you fall into the well," Song Yushan quickly said. The big gray goose twisted its body and snorted angrily at her. Ha. Did you change your voice? The goose still has a period of voice change, Song Yushan said in confusion. The big gray goose felt like it was going to be abused to death by this foolish girl, but its own life was precious. It could only swallow its anger and drag the sink at the foot of its courtyard wall. However, that was a stone trough. It was so tired that it almost came to an end and didn't even move a minute. Song Yushan finally discovered the empty sink and said, "Is there no water left?" "You wait, I'll fill it up for you right away." She quickly went to fetch a few buckets of water to pour in, and finally the big gray goose was able to save its throat from being punctured by dry bran. "It seems like it's really thirsty." Song Yushan shook his head when he saw its hungry appearance, and then saw its refugee-like feathers. When boiling water, he burned a little more. So after drinking water, the big gray goose was forced to take a bath again. Although the beautiful snow-white feathers have returned, the dignity of the goose has been completely lost. It's not an ordinary goose. This family is determined not to stay any longer, it is determined to run away from home, immediately. Bang! The corner door on the southwest side of the yard opened and closed, locked, and the unlucky girl went out. The Song family was originally a large mansion with 3 entrances, but later on, due to the scarcity of population and not renting slaves, they converted the front yard into a shop and opened a bookstore. The houses in the backyard have also been demolished and turned into a backyard, leaving only the main house and 2 side rooms in the main courtyard for living. Song Yushan entered the backyard of the bookstore through the corner gate on the southwest side of the courtyard. This bookstore has always been taken care of by her father, and she assists from the side. She is very clear about the business process and is now very quick to get started. She quickly wiped away the dust from the bookstore, and around noon, she opened the door and prepared to go to the street corner bun shop too early. "Good girl, have you opened the door for business?" The shopkeeper Yuan, who was at the pen and ink shop across the street, breathed a sigh of relief when he saw her come out. If the bookstore doesn't open again today, he plans to go to the Song family to see her. My dear friend left, and since she had set up a female household for the girl at home, she had to stand up early. Otherwise, those who had ulterior motives might think she couldn't stand up and bully her doorstep. Yuan Shibua. Song Yushan quickly met with Li before answering, "I only did business for half a day today. I will be going to attend classes with Grandma Hua in the afternoon. It will be like this in the bookstore in the future. If any guests come in the afternoon, please help me inform them." "Okay, Shibua will help you keep an eye on it. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, don't be polite to Shibua." Manager Yuan readily agreed without hesitation, without saying that she would follow Grandma Hua to learn, which hindered the business of the bookstore and did not remind her to hire someone to take a look at the store. He was the only son in his family and lost his father's protection before he even had a crown. As an orphan and widowed mother, he suffered countless losses. It was only with the help of his elder brother from the Song family that he was able to maintain his family's property. 2 families, one runs a paper and printing workshop and a bookstore, and the other runs a pen and ink workshop, selling pens and ink. They have been close friends since the previous generation. Therefore, he also knows best how risky it is to hire someone to enter before he has the power to protect himself, especially when Yushan is still a woman. Unlike his mother, who is blessed by her father and siblings and pampered at home, she is carefree and doesn't have to face the wind and rain outside. Song Yushan nodded in reply and said goodbye to Yuan Shibua. He went to the street corner, stopped outside the steamed bun shop at the street corner, and counted 20.61. 2 meat buns, a pot of soybean milk. As soon as her voice came out, the noisy street market quieted down a bit. Surprisingly, it's this malevolent star. In an instant, the people around her withdrew 3 feet. Song Yushan looked at the person who said this. She quite liked the intimidating way Sha Xing called her, but she didn't want anyone to dare to step on her head and say, "Who is Mrs. Su talking about? When Su's sister?" Law saw her pointed out, she remained calm and said, "Who wouldn't know that you killed your biological mother at the age of 5, your grandmother at the age of 10, and your biological father at the age of 15? Everyone said you were a bad star. If I were you, I would just hit and die, living would only harm people." "Well, I remember. I heard that your youngest child is studying in school, and I probably won't dare to use my paper books anymore. After all, I am a bad star, which affects your child's academic performance." Song Yushan said seriously, "By the way, who else would say I am a bad star?" End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Kyushu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Kyushu. Mrs. Su. Others. No, the books of the Song family have benefited many scholars in the county. I heard they are sold cheaper than those in the county. Miss Song is truly fortunate. Just joking, privately speaking, she's just fine. If she can't buy the paper books from the Song family bookstore, it'll be a disaster. The readers in Fushui County all use the things from the Song family bookstore. Do you want to travel thousands of miles to buy them elsewhere? The road is so dangerous, maybe if you go out, you won't be able to come back. Song Yushan nodded and said, "Well, it seems that only Mrs. Su thinks so." Mrs. Su's face turned red as she couldn't bring herself to apologize, and she also hated herself for causing trouble for her youngest child. When she went back to her house, the couple might not be able to spare her. Song Yushan did not answer her again. He turned to the steamed bun shop and said, "Aunt Wang, 2 steamed buns with meat and a pot of soybean milk." Hey, come on. Mrs. Wang, who had always wanted to be mischievous, woke up from a dream. This girl is really a formidable master. With the only bookstore in the county, others dare not provoke her. Who wouldn't know that reading is good? Fortunately, the Su family's daughter-in-law took the lead in smoothing the tiger's beard. Aunt Wang thought of her coldness towards the Song girls a few days ago and wanted to make up for it. She loved to eat her own steamed buns, but she was reluctant to add more steamed buns as usual, so she had to fill her with soybean milk. "Aunt Wang's soybean milk is very solid today, thank you." Song Yushan added another penny and left with something. This is just right. In the future, if she wants to eat Mrs. Wang's steamed buns, she doesn't have to avoid them because she always wants to pair herself and her son to give her steamed buns. It's just that Mrs. Wang's steamed buns, like her family's bookstore, are the only ones in the county. Seeing the money, Aunt Wang's heartache for taking a spoonful of soybean milk disappeared instantly. Seeing Song Yushan, she was flattered. Miss Song is so polite. Come here often. She likes customers who don't like to take advantage of things like this. Her son can no longer enjoy the wealth of the Song family, and now he has to rely on her. With her skill in making steamed buns and the generosity of the Miss Song family, she manages to earn a large sum of money from the Song family. Seeing her walking far away, Mrs. Wang saw the Su family's daughter-in-law and said in a gloomy tone, "Miss Song is as generous and kind as Song Xiuzai. How could anyone even say that she is a malevolent star? Mrs. Su. Don't think she doesn't know, someone was even happier than she called before." Song Yushan returned to the bookstore, happily finished breakfast, and then sat behind the counter reading to pass the time. These days are also her funeral and her father's funeral. The bookstore hasn't opened for several days, and the business in the morning is very good. Readers should pay more attention to their words and actions. Even if there are people with ulterior motives, they will not show great kindness on the surface. Song Yushan followed his father's usual business practices and remained calm this morning without any disturbances. At the beginning of the afternoon, Song Yushan closed the bookstore and posted a piece of paper on the door, informing him of the reopening tomorrow morning. After greeting Yuan Shibua, he went out. Passing by Fumanzai, Song Yushan ordered a double lunch and carried it all the way to the west of the county town. She couldn't help but follow Grandma Hua's instructions and take a nap after finishing her lunch. I slept too much last night, and now I'm worried about something. Even if I sleep for nothing, why not bring my lunch and go find her elderly home earlier? Master, I have brought you the Lu Ding meat cup from Fumanzai. Before stepping into the threshold of the sushi shop, Song Yushan's voice reached the room. Grandma Hua, who was lighting a fire in the backyard and preparing for lunch, stopped her work, shook her head, and walked out of the kitchen. Sure enough, she saw her carrying a food box and entering the yard, filling the stone table like food. Why did you come so early? Didn't you come later? Grandma Hua complained, but quickly cleared her hands and sat down. I slept too much last night and couldn't fall asleep at noon today. I happened to come and have dinner with you. We both enjoyed our meal better. Song Yushan said with a smile. Grandma Hua glanced at her and said, this once, let's not make an exception. Song Yushan didn't know that her mother-in-law was worried about her spending too much and didn't want to trouble her. She had long known that her mother-in-law was also a foodie, and every time she brought her food, there was never any leftover. However, due to the fear of others towards her, she rarely goes out on weekdays and never goes to the county's restaurants for meals. She always cooks at home, even if the food she cooks is really not delicious. Song Yushan thought of this and lowered his head, putting on a difficult expression. Master, my father has left, and I am the only one left. I don't even have anyone to eat with, so it's just the morning. Can we eat together at noon and evening? With my master, our appetite is better. Grandma Hua is not afraid of malice from others, and is most afraid of the kindness of others and the sadness of those around her. The kindness of others and the sadness of those around her are the easiest to make her soft-hearted. Well, in the future, you can come if you want. Song Yushan looked up in just 1 second, and his melancholy dissipated. Great, thank you, master. Grandma Hua nodded her forehead and said, ghost spirit. Song Yushan chuckled. The elderly and young started having lunch. The laughter and joy of young girls made the deserted courtyard lively. After dinner, Song Yushan begged Grandma Hua to teach her how to practice. Our sex-mind cultivation can only be practiced at night. In the afternoon, I will first tell you about the common knowledge of this cultivation world, said Grandma Hua. Song Yushan nodded repeatedly, quickly took out a pen, ink, paper, and inkstone from his shoulder bag and arranged them. He didn't forget to explain to his mother-in-law, father said, a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. I'm afraid I'll forget it if I hear it, so I can review it in time later. Grandma Hua nodded and began to speak. The world is divided into 9 provinces. Yong, Ji, Yan, Liang, Yu, Qing, Jing, Su, and Yang. Our Fushui County is located in Linjiang County, Qingzhou. Since ancient times, people, demons, and ghosts have mixed together in Kyushu, often causing chaos by demons and ghosts. Initially, the human race was weak, but later some gained power through understanding heaven and earth, established cities, and became the masters of Kyushu. Nowadays, practitioners either live in seclusion in the mountains and forests, or travel around, killing ghosts and demons, and protecting peace. A cultivator like her mother-in-law, who only has stronger physical strength and control than ordinary people, and cannot even use magic, can only be considered as a low-level practitioner in the cultivation world. Your cultivation talent is very good, and your future achievements will definitely be stronger than your mother-in-law's. Your mother-in-law can only teach you beginners, and after quenching the body, you will have to rely on yourself. If you can break through the condensation state and learn a few spells from your mother. In law, you will have the ability to venture into the county city. I will definitely study hard. Song Yushan promised, not only to find her father, but also for herself. Master, how many realms are there in cultivation? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Practice. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 5 Practice. My mother. In law has only heard of the 4 realms of quenching body realm, condensing chi realm, condensing consciousness realm, and enlightenment realm. Each realm is divided into 4 stages: early, middle, late, and perfect. It is unknown whether there are any other realms in the future. Hua's mother. In law said, in addition, practicing can increase one's lifespan, and one's body will not be affected by ordinary diseases. The lifespan of quenching body realm is 100, condensing chi realm is 200, condensing consciousness realm is 300, and enlightenment realm is 500. Song Yushan listened while taking notes, and the afternoon passed in a blink of an eye. She went to the market again to buy dinner, and the day after using it with Grandma Hua, it was already dark. Our mental practice is called Moon Blossom Heart Technique, and cultivation requires the assistance of Moon Blossom. Tonight is the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, and Moon Blossom is the most abundant and suitable for beginner cultivation. Yushan, go fetch a bucket of well water and place it in a basin. Grandma Hua took out 2 cattails and placed them on the blue stone slab in the courtyard, with a wooden basin in front of one of them. Song Yushan took the well water according to his words. Grandma Hua asked her to sit cross-legged on a cattail in front of a wooden basin, and do as she said. To the moon's shadow, 2 months with curtains hanging down, gazing at the moon in the basin, meditating on a clear moon in front of her forehead, bright and clean, cool, windy, and round. If so, make sure that the moon in the sky, the moon in the basin, and the moon in front of her forehead merge into 1 month, completely inseparable and incompatible, as if unable to tolerate it. The moon's shadow gradually becomes clear and gradual, realizing that this body is the moon, shining both inside and outside, completely integrated. Over time, naturally, the body and mind are in harmony, and enter the realm of bliss. My mother. In law's voice was as cold and indifferent as moonlight, devoid of any emotion. She repeated it over and over again, leading Song Yushan into a better state. At the midpoint of the moon, Song Yushan's envisioned forehead moon finally took shape. In the only one-eyed field of view left by Granny Hua, in that moment, the moonlight shone brightly upon her. At this point, Grandma Hua knew that she had become successful. It seemed that this child not only had good bones, but also had excellent intelligence. The hand holding the cane finally relaxed, and she sat on another pussy to start practicing. Song Yushan was immersed in the contemplation of the lunar wheel, feeling as refreshing and soothing as eating an iced watermelon in summer. Her pores all opened up, captivating. From this moment on, she fell in love with cultivation. She traced the moon in front of her forehead over and over again, always feeling that there was something else on this lunar wheel, a small square piece that became more familiar as she looked at it. Suddenly realizing, wasn't this the jade seal she was born with? With her realization, the jade seal became increasingly clear, and suddenly many things added to her mind. At this moment of distraction, the moon wheel in front of her forehead disappeared and she was forced to withdraw from her contemplative state. Looking up, the moon had already set in the west, and the white reflection of the fish belly rising in the east was not very clear. Surprisingly, 1 night has passed, but she is more energetic than sleeping soundly all night. Wake up. Grandma Hua also opened her eyes and said, you have successfully induced the moonlight to refine your body. You are now a cultivator in the early stage of the quenching state, and cultivation requires years of accumulation. In the future, on moonlit nights, remember to imagine the moon wheel. When your moon wheel is lifelike, you can open up the sea of qi and enter the condensation phase. Yes. Song Yushan's cultivation is still not fully satisfied. Alright, you go back and come back in the afternoon. Just having physical strength is not enough, you still need to learn how to use it. In the future, practice at night and learn self-defense skills from me in the afternoon. Grandma Hua began to rush people. Okay, I'll come and accompany you for lunch. Song Yushan didn't forget to buy a breakfast for Grandma Hua nearby before leaving, and left it in the store for her. In the early morning of Fushui County, a young girl in green ran towards the sunrise, laughing happily. From the remote west of the county to the bustling east, Song Yushan ran at full speed without stopping, taking only half a quarter of an hour. After this trip, she clearly felt the changes in her body. Before, not to mention running from the west to the east of the county, it took more than half an hour to walk there. Now she has competed with professional long-distance runners. Although she was sweating profusely after running, she was overjoyed by the progress on her body, and she had only practiced once, which was just the beginning. Carrying the breakfast I bought along the way, I returned to Hohot Lane. Upon entering, I looked left and right and saw a white patch at the foot of the courtyard wall. That's it, I haven't come back all night. The big white goose won't starve to death, will it? Walking over to take a look, it's okay, there's still breathing, but the spirit is not good. Song Yushan went to look at the wheat bran pocket again, and found that it was missing a large part. Her appetite was clearly good, and it seemed like nothing serious. There was still water in the sink. Finally, she looked at the sunlight and concluded that it was still early, and the bai probably hadn't woken up yet. Look at Song Yushan, she gets up earlier than geese. This goose doesn't know how to lay eggs, so Song Yushan has nothing else to ask of it, as long as it is still alive and well. So she left lightly and went to the kitchen to boil the shower water. She sat in the courtyard, having breakfast while organizing and digesting the information that Yuan had imparted to her last night. It turned out that she had made a mistake when she recognized her master with blood. It was precisely because she recognized her master that this jade seal had hidden into her sea of consciousness. It only appeared during yesterday's contemplation. The imagined frontal moon is actually the moon wheel in the sea of consciousness. This jade seal is called the merit jade seal and is a spiritual treasure. As for what Ling Bao is, she is not sure. She only heard from Grandma Hua that cultivators use magical tools, which can be classified into low grade, medium grade, high grade, and ultimate grade. The merit jade seal cannot be used in battles, it only has the effect of assisting cultivation. Through it, Song Yushan can clearly perceive his current cultivation progress and mastered abilities, including not only mental techniques, but also the cultivation progress of spells and divine powers. In order to help her understand the functions and usage of the jade seal more clearly, the jade seal specially adjusted the functional presentation mode according to her cognitive habits. Now, with a thought in her heart, the jade seal projected onto the words in her sea of consciousness. Merit Jade Seal, Host. Song Yushan, Merit. 1/1, Cultivation. 0, Enlightenment. 0, Ability. Moon Blossom Heart Technique. In the early stage of quenching, it truly deserved to be a tailored understanding model for her, and Song Yushan understood it at a glance. Isn't this the system panel in Su Hui's memory? Each item can be further expanded with a detailed introduction. The Jade Seal of Merit, as its name suggests, is the most essential element of merit. This merit value can be used to assist in cultivation, enhance cultivation effects, or enhance comprehension and perception abilities. 1 point of merit can assist her in practicing 10 times, or briefly enhance her understanding 3 times, each time for an hour. The higher the cumulative amount of merit, the more functions the merit has. Song Yushan currently only has 1 merit in total. She was taught by her father to do good deeds from a young age, and there is a reward for good deeds. She now believes in this reward, but it is too difficult to do good deeds. I can't believe that all these merits she has accumulated in the 15 years since she was born. She thinks she is a kind person, although not as kind as her father. At least she is someone who will give a few copper coins to beggars on the roadside. From childhood to adulthood, there have been countless copper coins that have been donated, and surprisingly, there is only one merit left, which is gone after use. Does she have to throw more than a decade of copper coins to gain a little merit? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Goodness, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Goodness, having obtained the treasure, but without the key to unlock it, Song Yushan's meal became tasteless and tasteless. When the bath water was boiling and she was soaking in the bathtub, she was still thinking about how to earn this credit. Her father is known as a great kind-hearted person, so she naturally began to analyze from her father's daily words and actions. Thinking of her father, she suddenly remembered what he had said. Having a heart is good, even if it is good, it is not rewarded. Father believed that if having a heart is good, regardless of whether it is seeking fame or something, the reputation or other things obtained are rewards. Only by doing good for the sake of doing things themselves without seeking rewards, sincerely helping others, and effectively doing so, can one truly accumulate good deeds and receive rewards from heaven, that is, blessings or good rewards. Think about the past when she gave alms to beggars. Did she have any ulterior motives? Not really. I didn't expect them to give back, but has it really worked? How much can her kindness help them, and how much does it truly fall on them? It's probably not much. The beggars get 3 or 2 copper coins, maybe they can exchange for some food to fill their stomachs, but it won't improve their lives much. Maybe even the income earned from begging may not be truly used for themselves. With this thought, Song Yushan understood. Her past way of doing good was too rough and too simple, so she repaid her kindness. Despite giving so many times, there was only a small amount of merit. In the future, when doing good deeds, one should also consider carefully. Having a good intention to do something bad, or not putting it into practice, is just a waste of her goodwill. She is the only orphan girl left in the family. No matter how much money she has, it is just a number for her. It can be used for some good deeds, but we need to plan carefully and then make plans. The top priority now is to improve your cultivation as soon as possible. To do good, one must also have the ability to protect oneself, otherwise one may accidentally fall into it. Self-protection is a prerequisite, and only then can one have the opportunity to do more good deeds, implement their own ideas, and avoid being bullied and hurt by others. With this in mind, Song Yushan decided to use his only 1 point of merit to assist and improve cultivation effectiveness, which is currently the most urgent need. As for her perception ability, it is not very important for her at this stage, and it is more suitable for breaking through boundaries or practicing new spells. She washed away all her sweat and changed into a clean dress. At the beginning of the morning, she opened the door of the bookstore on time. While looking at the shop, she organized the notes from yesterday's diary into a booklet and specially made a record of her spiritual knowledge and insights for herself. There wasn't much, and she quickly finished organizing it. Thinking of the first time she heard about 9 provinces in the world yesterday, she found the map of Qingzhou in her family's collection. Her family runs a bookstore, and she has loved reading since childhood. However, the book only mentions Qingzhou at most, and the city is the biggest place she knows. Qingzhou has a vast territory and abundant resources, with a longer east-west depth and a slightly shorter north-south distance. On the map of Qingzhou, Fushui County is like a little gravel, located in the northeast corner, while the entire Linjiang County is like a long worm. Between counties and cities, there are vast uninhabited territories that dominate the world of beasts and monsters. The farther away from human habitation, the more dangerous it becomes, so there is not much interaction between different regions. Many people in Fushui County have never been out of their place of birth in their lifetime, and those who have visited the county town are all well-known locals. No one in the whole county has ever been to the city, and most people don't even know the name of their own state, Qingzhou. They only know that Fushui County is under the jurisdiction of the Prince of Linjiang County. But now she knew that Qingzhou was divided between the governor and the kings of various counties, and Qingzhou was bordered by the sea to the east, with Yanzhou to the north, Yuzhou to the west, and Shuzhou to the south. She marked it on all four corners of the map. In addition, there are other 5 provinces that do not border Qingzhou, and even Grandma Hua does not know the specific location. This world is much larger than she thought, but I don't know which state Chu Xia is in. One day, she will travel all over the world, find Chu Xia, and find her father. As usual, I closed my shop at early noon, went to Fumanzai to pick up my lunch, and ran towards the west end of the county. When she ran back across the county town in the morning, it was still very early and not many people saw her. At this time, in the middle of the day, she became very eye-catching when she ran. Since Song Xiuzai left, Song Jai Yushan has become less and less like a woman. She runs on the street in broad daylight. What does it look like? I heard that the Song family bookstore only does half a day of business now. My son went there in the second half of yesterday and was completely empty. Ah, the Song family's family business is going to be defeated by this woman. It's better to hire a son-in-law to come and help take care of it in the beginning. Watching her like she's heading west of the county. Staying with that person doesn't make me feel like. Why did she turn around? Did she hear it? I can't do it, it's so far. She can hear it, that's the hell. Song Yushan turned back, indeed, because she heard it. To be honest, not only were they surprised, but she herself was also surprised. She runs fast, and the usual behind-the-scenes discussions are so far away that she can't hear them, but today she can hear them clearly. Her ears seem to be much more sensitive, and she discovered another happy thing. She was in a good mood and didn't want to argue with those who were talking behind her back. As long as she didn't step on her face in front of her, she would just ignore it. When she achieves success in her cultivation, there will always be times when they beg for her. Just like Grandma Hua, they are afraid of her, but once something happens, don't they still ask to come to their door? If she were to be replaced, we would have to kill them hard. Fushui County West, Baishir Street, Shotsai Shop. Master, let's eat now. Today we have crab roe and lion's head, and I also bought a big winter melon. Song Yushan shouted at the top of his throat. This winter melon is a rare watermelon, with a low yield and difficult transportation. Only in the summer can farmers pick it up to sell in the city, and it costs 1 or 2 silver each, which most people cannot afford. Why is there sweat all over her head? Grandma Hua was folding yuanbao under the shade of a tree in the courtyard today. Seeing her panting heavily and sweating profusely, she quickly asked. Song Yushan placed the food box on the table, poured a bucket of well water, and wiped his face with a wet handkerchief. I ran here. After practicing last night, my whole body was full of energy. It only took me half a quarter of an hour to run from the west to the east of the county in one breath, and it was very easy. Although I sweat a lot, it's all because it's too hot, and it's scorching the winter melon. Grandma Hua looked at her panting and relaxed expression, shook her head. This girl must have a hard mouth. After washing his face, Song Yushan poured a bucket of water, soaked the winter melon in the bucket, and put it back into the well. Leave it in the well for a few hours, and eating it in the afternoon will just relieve the heat, he said. All right, come and have dinner, said Grandma Hua. How come I didn't realize before that my disciple is a chatterbox? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Stick Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Stick Technique. After finishing lunch, Grandma Hua took her to the miscellaneous room and said, take an axe and go to the small bamboo forest behind the house to chop down a bamboo that you can grip with one hand. Leave a piece about the same height as you and bring it back. Song Yushan nodded, remembered Grandma Hua's request, and went out through the back door with an axe. Grandma Hua planted a lot of bamboo behind the house to make paper ties, but Song Yushan didn't need a quarter of an hour to find the bamboo that met the requirements and came back. I only know one type of stick technique, called fast wind. This stick technique is known for its speed, and the faster the move, the more powerful it becomes. When practiced, it becomes full and round. The stick is like a virtual shadow, and its traces cannot be captured by the naked eye. If there is a stick, it seems like there is no stick. If supplemented with spiritual energy, its power is not even weaker than the technique. This kind of stick technique is easier to practice with lighter bamboo sticks when your strength is not enough. After your cultivation increases and your strength becomes stronger, you can, like me, switch to sticks made of other materials according to your own habits and preferences. Speaking, Grandma Hua held her peachwood cane and demonstrated the wind stick technique to her once. On weekdays, she would walk with a cane and dance slowly, just like an elderly lady. Song Yushan's eyes couldn't keep up with her rhythm, and the peachwood cane had indeed turned into a silhouette. She stared and could only capture a blurry brown color. Now she realized that the strength of the flower granny she had seen before was only the tip of the iceberg. After Grandma Hua finished demonstrating the moves, Song Yushan clapped and said, "It's too powerful, too fast." Even if she only learned this stick technique, she could beat the invincible hand in Fushui County. "Do you want to learn?" Grandma Hua asked her. Song Yushan nodded repeatedly and said, "You need to learn." "Okay, all kinds of stick techniques come from basic moves. Today, I'll teach you how to pluck the stick," said Grandma Hua, adjusting her stance and tilting the stick tip forward and upward, left and right. She demonstrated 3 times from slow to fast this time. "Did you see it clearly?" Song Yushan nodded. This action didn't seem complicated, and she immediately followed suit and imitated it. Of course, this 7 or 8 is just what she thinks. In the words of Grandma Hua, her way of holding the stick is that with just a little force, someone can pick it away for her. The fact is indeed so. Grandma Hua even asked her to hold on to this position tightly, but she still couldn't hold on to her stick. Then she carefully observed Grandma Hua's way of holding the stick, adjusted it in time, and began practicing the stick again and again. When pulling the stick, the force should be smooth and light, and the amplitude should not be too large. Grandma Hua guides from the side, leaving a deep impression on her every time. She is also quickly correcting her movements and making rapid progress. This action was indeed not difficult, and in no time did she grasp the essentials. Before she could be happy, Grandma Hua mercilessly assigned a new task. "Before Yushan, pluck the stick 1,000 times." At this moment, Song Yushan was far from reaching his limit and did not see this task as too difficult. After an hour, she had to pluck the stick 700 times. At this time, there was still an hour before Yushan, but her speed had started to slow down and she began to feel a bit tired. "My arms are sore, and every time I dance with a stick, I need more physical strength and energy than before, and it's getting slower and harder." Gradually, her movements began to deform. Every non-standard action of her will be picked out by Grandma Hua. If she makes a mistake, not only will she not count it, but she will also add 10 more on top of the original one. After several occurrences of this situation, she not only did not do less and less, but also did more and more. Song Yushan doesn't want to be unable to complete the task the first time, so he would rather be slower in the future and do each action well. Finally, the task was completed before Yushan, which was even more exhausting than running across the county town. The gentle bamboo stick seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and her arms felt like they were no longer hers. Practicing martial arts is indeed not an easy task, and on the first day, I almost got rid of her. "Alright, that's all for today's practice," Grandma Hua finally called out to stop. "Come and eat some winter melon." Song Yushan, as if granted amnesty, picked up the winter melon cut by Grandma Hua and took a big bite. For such a long time, she didn't drink a sip of water and sweated a lot. The sweet winter melon was simply too delicious, and it healed her in an instant. After eating the winter melon and resting for a while, Song Yushan went to buy dinner. After dinner, Song Yushan originally wanted to continue meditating and practicing with his mother-in-law, but was pushed out by her mother-in-law with a stuffed bun. You should have no problem attracting the moonlight in the future. While it's still dark, hurry back and come back tomorrow afternoon. Before closing the door, Grandma Hua reminded her, don't leave your house at night until you break through the condensation period. Song Yushan looked at the sky, but still carried a cattail and a bamboo stick and headed home. There is indeed a curfew rule in Fushui town, and there has never been any nightlife. She used to think it was just a rule established by the government, but now her mother-in-law's words seem different. There seems to be some danger at night. Song Yushan is curious, but she knows more about cherishing life. Her mother-in-law's words about the condensation period are definitely reasonable. If your strength is insufficient, then go back and focus on cultivation. Upon returning home and entering the door, Song Yushan heard the ups and downs, rhythmically saying, Gaga 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 gaga. This voice is her big white goose singing. She locked onto the white patch by the sink and tiptoed over. I saw a goose pouting its buttocks and arching back and forth in the food bowl. There was also a gourd on the ground next to it, which looked like the one in the bran pocket. It's just that there are a few small notches missing from the edge of the ladle, and the shape looks like only a guy with a flat mouth can bite it out. Looking into the food bowl again, the refreshing bran turned into a suspicious object that was half thin and half dry, while the big white goose buried its head in it and stirred it with its mouth, accompanied by cheerful goose calls. I really don't know how it can use its mouth like a stick while still shouting so rhythmically, even more proficiently than a ventriloquist. Watching it thoroughly stir up the bran, then burying its head and eating it wildly, the tone became increasingly melodious, and Song Yu understood the aftermath. Perhaps, the bai prefers to eat bran mixed with water. Ga. The big white goose quickly finished flaunting a bowl of rice, bit the gourd With one force, the gourd cracked and fell to the ground with a clatter. Cough, are you full? If you're not full, I'll give you some more. Song Yushan rubbed his nose. Sure enough, the children of poor families have long been in charge. As someone who doesn't know how to raise geese, the geese she raises are forced to rely on themselves. Seeing that the great white goose had no intention of having another pot, Song Yushan said, you can make do with this ladle first, and I'll go buy you a few new ones tomorrow. Big white goose. Look, is this speaking human language? Is it necessary for it to support itself? This one, it really can't stay for a day. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Runaway. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Runaway. The big white goose secretly glanced in the direction of the backyard, and today it has explored the best escape route and set up its footing. Tomorrow, at the latest tomorrow, she will make this heartless girl lose herself and regret her deeply. Song Yushan had no idea that a self-sufficient white goose was planning to run away from home. She is in a hurry to practice and has already gone to boil water and take a shower. As night fell and the moon rose, Song Yushan had already placed the cattail in the middle of the yard, in the widest area, and began to meditate with his eyes closed. She used up only 1 point of merit and had 10 opportunities to enhance her cultivation effect. These 10 opportunities allowed her to choose to use them in any cultivation. Now she's going to use it for the first time. This time, after entering a state of visualization, she clearly felt a difference. Today, August 16th, the power of the moonlight should be slightly less than yesterday. However, she didn't expect to feel that the moonlight was even more abundant than yesterday, spreading into her body through the moon in front of her forehead, gradually refining and polishing her body. Yuehua is too full, her realm is not enough, her absorption speed is limited, and her body's endurance is also limited. Soon, her body can't bear it anymore. We can only allow Yuehua to transition from her forehead to her middle month, making her forehead more full, and then most of it will escape, leaving only a small portion of the Yuehua's power that we can bear to refine ourselves. This is not a waste. Although her body's refining speed has an upper limit, the moonlight washing over her forehead is very beneficial to her realm. Yesterday, when she was practicing, she also dissipated some moonlight power that her body couldn't eat. In the yard, the big white goose, who was also basking in the moonlight, saw this scene and suspected that the goose was alive. This heartless girl just sat there like this, and Yuehua pounced up like she didn't want any money. How could it be so pitiful to let it be a goose praying for Yuehua's mercy day by day? Moonlight does not come, it goes on its own. The big white goose moved step by step, and finally lay flat on the side of Song Yushan. Yuehua, there's so much more, even more than in the sky. Although the young master is not very intelligent and may be suspected of abusing geese, the fragrance of moonlight emanating from her body is amazing. Being washed away by the power of the moonlight, it felt that its already intelligent brain had become much more agile, and its wings had become more powerful. This family can probably, perhaps, endure for a few more days. At the beginning of the hour of Mao, the sun rose in the east and the moonlight disappeared. She also finished her cultivation and did not realize that the moonlight power she had scattered had been wasted by the great white goose. Song Yushan stretched lazily, feeling that yesterday's fatigue had been dissipated by the night's cultivation. Although he didn't sleep, he felt even more comfortable than sleeping. Yesterday's moonlight was wasted a lot, and merits only come out but not in. Strange, why did she gain a little more merit? In the jade seal of merit, her number of merits has become 1/2. It's strange. Last night when she was meditating, she was still 0/1. Why did she practice all night and gain a little more? I can't figure it out, she didn't do anything good. I can only give up temporarily if I don't understand, but the merits I have obtained are real, and now I can assist in cultivation 10 more times. Early in the morning, a slight merit was bestowed upon Song Yushan, which was an unexpected joy. Song Yushan was in an extremely good mood. She scanned the yard and didn't see any big white geese, nor did she hear any goose calls. Upon hearing this, Song Yushan seemed to make a strange noise in the backyard. He walked through the hanging flower gate, followed the sound, and finally saw the big white goose playing with the bamboo basket. The bamboo basket with fallen leaves in the backyard arrived at the foot of the courtyard wall at some point, but it was still upside down and had several small holes on the side. It was clear who the culprit was. The big white goose was still trying to bite the bamboo basket, pecking and picking at it. Song Yushan looked at it for a while before realizing that it seemed to be trying to flip the bamboo basket over. Seeing its clumsy appearance, Song Yushan kindly stepped forward and gave a hand. Big white goose. Is this person walking without any sound? It quietly extended its fins and pushed the bamboo basket away from the courtyard wall. She can't have discovered it. Song Yushan had long known that his big white goose was different from ordinary livestock, and his ability to lay eggs was developed through careful thinking. Although she couldn't understand its brain circuits, she knew that a careful thought to contain it was enough. She saved the bamboo basket containing fallen leaves, put it back in its original position, and then warned a goose, if there is another hole in this bamboo basket, I will call the cook of Fumanzai to come and slaughter the goose. Big white goose. The goose was under the eaves and had to bow its head. Song Yushan educated the mischievous big white goose to go to the bookstore with peace of mind. Today, we ate wonton, the second from the bottom of the street. Before we finished breakfast, we had guests. Upon seeing it, Song Yushan saw that it was the second son of the Su family, his wife, and Su Abeo. She used to keep her word. If she didn't do their Su family business, she wouldn't do it. Yesterday, Su Abeo came to buy paper, but she refused and asked him to go back and ask his mother. Miss Song, my daughter.in-law doesn't have a gatekeeper on her mouth, so I apologize for offending you. I brought her to apologize for you. The second in command of the Su family bowed in a somewhat awkward Confucian salute. And beside him, Su's sister-in-law, who was still proud when she said she was a malevolent star the day before yesterday, lowered her head, covered her face, and lost her previous arrogance. Miss Song, it's my mouth that smells bad, and I won't dare to do it again in the future. Please forgive me. My Bao still has to go to school, and I can't even lack books and paper. Su Abao, who was still young, also bowed with an arch. Song Yushan didn't feel too difficult for them either. Just give them a lesson and say, Bao, what do you want to buy? Go and choose. Su's sister-in-law looked up in surprise at the words. She thought she was going to be harshly ridiculed today, but she didn't expect to be lightly let go. Although Song Jia Yushan doesn't seem to have much luck, he is a grand person. The three members of the Su family got involved in this matter and left the bookstore together. When he returned home, the polite and courteous second son of the Su family slammed the door and said with a grim expression, Song Yushan really doesn't have any seniority or inferiority. After all, I'm enough for her to call her second uncle. But just because of the argument between the women, he forced me to bring you to apologize and step on the face of our Su family, which was too careful. Master, you. Mrs. Su wanted to say something, but when she saw her husband's angry expression, she dared not say anything. It's not that I'm talking about you. You're too foolish. How could you speak ill of someone in person and get caught in a current situation? Even if she's an orphan girl and kills her relatives, calling her a malevolent star with reason and evidence, you can't curse in person when she has a basis in their hands. Who would be in charge of cursing behind the scenes? The second son of the Su family became angrier and angrier as he thought about it. Bao, you should study hard. In the future, we can also open a bookstore. At that time, her family's industry may have been ruined by her. If I didn't just curse how I wanted to, I wouldn't dare to curse her in person. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Jinda, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Jinda. Song Yushan closed the door earlier than usual today. When going out with a bamboo stick, there was still a quarter of an hour before noon. Today, people from Fushui County discovered that Song Yushan has become increasingly inclined to approach Grandma Hua. At a young age, he used a bamboo stick as a crutch and was seriously ill. Only those who have experienced Grandma Hua's cane trembled when they saw the bamboo stick used as a cane. Fu Man Zhai, Tianzi Room 1. Song Yushan is waiting for today's lunch. Others say that the Jin shopkeeper of Fumanzai was grateful for his kindness, and the Song family gave him a release letter, so he always kept the best private room for his former master. Little did they know that the entire Fuman studio was hers. Bookstores and workshops are the family's industries, and this Fu Man Zhai was established and managed by Song Yushan himself. The shopkeeper on the surface is the Jin shopkeeper, but in reality, she is the true owner of Fumanzai. Otherwise, their family would not only eat Fumanzai's meals. When my grandmother passed away, my father was determined to dismiss the servants, and none of them wanted to leave. The Song family was already generous in treating their servants. Although they were granted a free body, their descendants could all hold their chests high and become good people in the future. However, many people learned the skill of serving others throughout their lives, and even if they left, they didn't know how to survive unless they sold themselves into slavery again. So Song Yushan came up with a solution for his father, sending most of the slaves to the workshop and letting them learn how to work and exchange labor for wages. Similar to before in the government, he is just a free person and his monthly salary is determined by his position and labor achievements. This not only gives you freedom, but also allows you to earn money to support yourself. Some of them have good abilities, and if they manage small tasks, they can still receive dividends based on their performance every year. And the Jin shopkeeper, originally named Jinda, was the original cook in the family. Song Yushan has Su Hui's talent and some ingenuity in cooking food, but she is impatient to cook on her own. So since she was young, she often asked Jinda to cook food for her in the kitchen. She described the recipe and Jinda cooked it, and the two of them also had a tacit understanding. So when dismissing the servant, she personally arranged his whereabouts. She spent the private money she had saved from childhood to adulthood, personally selected a location in the county, bought a storefront, designed the decoration, and then studied the dishes with Jinda, which led to the current fumanzai. Her ingenuity in cooking food, as well as the dietary recipes she researched from books, are mostly used here. In 5 years, Fumanzai has firmly established itself as the top restaurant in Fushui County. Jinda has no relatives or family members, only loves delicious food. She loves to cook and eat delicious food, and is more attentive to the dishes of Fu Manzai than her master. Nowadays, Jinda is both the shopkeeper and the head chef of Fumanzai. Song Yushan also gave him a 30% profit from Fumanzai, and he is also a prominent figure in Fushui town. However, he still focuses solely on eating. Just as I was thinking about it, the private door was knocked on. A middle-aged man with a fat head and big ears, a big belly, and a blouse came in with 2 food boxes, one big and one small, and a simple smile. "Miss, I have studied the dompa braised pork you said before. Do you have a taste of it?" He opened the smaller food box as he spoke, which contained only a small plate containing a crispy, red, and shiny piece of meat. "That's the right color." Song Yushan was pleasantly surprised, took a sip, nodded repeatedly, and finished eating in a few bites. "It's fragrant and not greasy, and there's also a faint aroma of wine. That's the taste. Uncle Jean, you've been so successful." "Hey hey." Jinda scratched his head and felt a little embarrassed. "If you like it, I'll fill you with a big bowl of dompa braised pork at today's lunch. You remember to give Grandma Hua a taste. The old man's mouth is bad, and the meat is soft and rotten, which is just right for her to eat. If you want to eat anything else, just tell me. There is nothing I can't make for old Jean." "No problem." Song Yushan said, "By the way, I came today just to tell you that from now on, all my dinner will be sent to my master's place, and we will eat together. It's about early Yusha. Remember to find a more daring shop assistant to deliver it, don't neglect my master." "Damn it." Jinda understood, "I'll let Ma Zi go. His house is just a piece of cake." Song Yushan nodded and got up to pick up the large food box. "Then I'll go find Grandma Hua for dinner," he said. Jinda escorted Song Yushan outside the Fuman studio and watched her walk away. It is a great good thing for Miss to learn from Grandma Hua. Only timid people will judge people by their appearance and fear Grandma Hua. Lao Jin knows very well that Grandma Hua is the most capable person in this county. As soon as the young lady walked away, Jinda suppressed his most genuine smile. "There's no way," said the young lady. "When he smiles, he looks like an honest person who is easy to bully. Usually, he has to be strict under the emperor so that people can't be fooled. This way, there can be less trouble and more time and energy spent on things you enjoy." Fushui County West Baisher Street, Shotsai Shop. "Master, today we have a new dish, dompa braised pork. The happy meal time always passes by so quickly. Today, Song Yushan's learning project has been changed to the next action. Sweeping the stick. However, the task has changed to a task of 500 strokes of the staff and 1000 strokes of the staff before Yusha. Although she has increased by 500 times, she has grown much better today compared to yesterday. Every point of refining by the moonlight during cultivation has greatly improved her. And this time she will have more experience. She didn't do her best from the beginning, deliberately controlling the speed and proceeding at a constant speed, which could save more energy and persist for a longer time. However, Grandma Hua doesn't want to see her like this. What does it look like when you learn the fast wind stick technique? Hurry up, even faster. Did you give me back the movements I learned yesterday? Are you running out of energy so quickly? Didn't you make any progress in last night's cultivation? At the beginning of the Yushan period, Song Yushan completed the task with both risks and exhaustion. Although she made great progress last night, she is even more tired after practicing today than yesterday. At the end, Ma Zi delivered dinner on time. Although some fear can be seen from him, it is more about respect and not considered impolite. Song Yushan nodded to himself, saying that the person in the Jin election is good. Before leaving, she gave him a few copper coins as running money. After dinner, Grandma Hua said to her, "There will be rain tomorrow, so there is no need to come. From now on, there will be no need to come on rainy days. Come back when the weather clears." "How do you know it will rain tomorrow?" Song Yushan was curious. "In the afternoon, when the sun rises, there will be rain tomorrow," said Grandma Hua. This is a way to judge the weather by observing celestial phenomena. Coincidentally, there will be light rain tomorrow. You can read this book at home to help you understand the rain and predict the best time for cultivation. When you reach the later stage of the quenching state, you will be able to see most celestial phenomena clearly. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Demons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Demons. Song Yushan took it over, and it was a handwritten manuscript called Jianxiang. On the way back, Song Yushan walked and recalled the appearance of the sun this afternoon, without realizing anything special. It was just a vague and dazzling appearance. Curious, she casually placed the bamboo stick under her armpit and freed her hand to flip through the book that Grandma Hua had given her. This book is a thin book that tells the corresponding astronomical characteristics according to different weather classifications. In the rain section, it is mentioned that my mother-in-law said, "The sun rises in the afternoon, and there will be rain tomorrow." She didn't understand what a prominence looked like, but there was also a small simple illustration next to it. The round one was the sun, and there were two small arcs at the edges, like two small ears. She can guarantee that the sun she saw this afternoon did not have long ears. However, what my mother-in-law said is that most celestial phenomena can only be seen clearly in the later stage of the quenching state. Perhaps it is because her current state is too low and her vision is not good enough. Song Yushan didn't dwell on whether the sun today had ears or not, and as he walked, he began to read other content. Along the way, she didn't need to pay attention, and pedestrians automatically avoided her direction. The Song family's Yushan has become another eccentric in Fushui County, and Grandma Hua has become the second. She was not someone as sociable as her father, so she ended up feeling relaxed. Because her mother-in-law explained that there would be rain on the day, she was worried that the clouds would come at night or it would rain, which would affect the effectiveness of her cultivation. She didn't use merit to assist her cultivation tonight, but instead attracted the moonlight on her own. The first half of the night was fine, and the moonlight was very abundant. There was no need for merit cultivation, and the progress was also good. In the latter half of the night, it did indeed rain, and the little wetness fell on her face, and she withdrew from her cultivation state. When she opened her eyes, she saw a touch of white beside her. She was so scared that she jumped up and picked up the bamboo stick at hand to hit it. Gah! The big white goose is still rubbing against the power of the moonlight released from the little master's cultivation. Although it is not as strong as yesterday, it is still much stronger than its sunbathing on the moon alone. Although the moon today is not very bright, it seems to be getting closer to it. By the side of the little master, it has also made it easier for it to attract the moonlight on its own. At this moment, I was feeling proud, but I didn't want the power of the moon blossom to come to an abrupt end. Then, I saw a girl who was lacking in heart and wanted to rape a goose, and my soul was scared out. Upon hearing this sound, Song Yushan promptly withdrew his grip and said, "Dabai. Why don't you sleep in your bed? Wait, has Dabai not yet fully absorbed the power of the moonlight?" Song Yushan is familiar with it and will never admit it wrong. The big white goose, unaware of its exposure, patted its sturdy chest and said, "I'm scared to death." The raindrops fell with a crackling sound, and the big white goose was about to slip into its nest, but Song Yushan grabbed the throat of fate. Gaga gaga. Kill the goose. Song Yushan carried the goose to the warehouse, found a hemp rope, tied up the guilty goose in various ways, carried it into the house with a bamboo stick, and hung it on the beam of the house. So, Song Yushan can be considered more at ease. Dragging a chair and sitting in front of the big white goose, he glared and said, "Tell me, you little demon, what are your intentions in our family, pretending to be a poultry? Where is the big white goose raised by my father? Did you eat it? Big white goose. Dot. What is she talking about? How come I can't understand at all? Don't tell me, right? If you don't need someone from Fumanzai to come today, I'll be you." Song Yushan slammed the bamboo stick in his hand onto the ground. The big white goose was scared and screamed incessantly. "It's over, it's going to be killed by the crazy girl." Song Yushan touched his chin. He was just like the big white goose in their family. He didn't look like a fake, but he looked just like the big white goose. So, their big white goose hasn't been swapped. This is their big white goose, and this is also a demon. Apart from cultivators like her who practice the moon blossom heart technique, only demons can absorb the moon blossom cultivation. Afraid of becoming like this, without transforming into a human form or returning to its original form to escape, it is obvious that even if it is a small demon, it is being promoted. My mother-in-law once said that those who have opened their minds are called mortal demons, those who can transform half of their form are the little demons, the one that can completely transform is the demon. The strength of demons often depends on their race and moral character, but it is true that ordinary demons with weaker bodies are not very dangerous except for being smarter. So, is the big white goose a demon? Or is it just a spiritual demon that has been activated? Song Yushan let go of most of his heart and said, "When did you open up your mind?" The big white goose understood this time, which means it doesn't want its life temporarily, but it's just a goose, why ask it such a complex question? Is it a math problem that a goose with only 8 toes should know? Moreover, it is now tightly bound, and the fingers on its fins cannot be seen clearly. How can it calculate the time clearly, and how can it compare with her? More importantly, although it understands human language, it cannot speak human language. Gaga gaga. It was so angry that it did something wrong to meet such a person. It's not as smart as a goose that hasn't been enlightened for long. 3 years. Song Yushan asked. Big white goose. Dot. How did she know? Song Yushan understood and said, "If I'm right next, just give me a crack. If I'm not right, just give me a crack." The big white goose nodded, "It knows." "Have you absorbed the power of the moonlight that I scattered?" Song Yushan asked. The big white goose's eyeballs spin wildly. Fu Man Zhai. Ga. The big white goose finally had to reveal the truth due to the deterrent power of Fu Man Zhai. "Is it very beneficial for you demons to practice by my side?" Song Yushan asked again. The big white goose gave a decisive creak this time. "Do you still want to continue practicing by my side?" The big white goose's eyes lit up and said, "Ga. It must be." Before she could be happy, she let out a sigh and said, "Then you can just say you're an ordinary poultry. Feed you some food and keep it so that you can eat meat even if you can't lay eggs. It's a bit useful. Now that you've become a demon and lived in my house for so long, you still have to rub against the moonlight I've attracted. But I can't beg for anything. You don't even know how to lay eggs, can I kill you and eat meat?" Ga. I can lay eggs. Right, you think so too, then you. Song Yushan originally wanted to say, since it didn't know anything, he helped the housekeeper calculate. However, he saw it straighten its neck, as if using force. Before long, a big egg fell from its buttocks and fell to the ground with a snap, rolling to her feet. More than 1 meter high, fell to the ground without breaking a single point. She looked at the egg and then at the big white goose, and fell silent. How many surprises does it still have that it doesn't know? Do you want another one? Song Yushan said by a stroke of luck. Gaga gaga, the big white goose is irritable, cursing and cursing. It's a goose, not a pig that comes from the next nest. End of this chapter.